Welcome, everyone, to my channel. I'm Diane Whidden, and I am delighted today to welcome Justine Beauregard to my channel to this interview. Justine is an award winning sales strategist and coach. Her extensive experience includes scaling companies to 300 million and generating over $10 million in sales for more than 700 entrepreneurs globally. What truly distinguishes her approach is a commitment to authentic, relationship driven sales and a guiding people over profit philosophy, which is, of course, why I like her. So, welcome so much today, Justine. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure.
Awesome, wonderful. Is there anything else you want to tell us about you, your background, and how you got started other than the little intro I gave you?
I think it's important that we share the fact that I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I think there are certain people who kind of are shaped by their journey, and I'm one of those people being surrounded by very strong maternal entrepreneurial type of personalities. My grandmother was one of the founders of Women in Electronics. She was really paving the way for women back in the day. My grandfather was retired and home with 5 kids, and she was out there working and investing in real estate and building her dreams. And so I was very influenced by that. And so having multiple businesses and always knowing and feeling this calling of being an entrepreneur, I think there's just a slight difference in how I respond to things and how I think about things with that lens. So as people are listening, not as a point of comparison, but just context, this is sort of my background and why I'm so obsessive about entrepreneurship and all the things that go into it.
That is so cool. I didn't know that about your background in all my research. That didn't come up. So I love that context because, of course, I'm completely the opposite. I had no entrepreneurship in my background and I
Yeah.
totally was flailing through the early years, convinced I was doing everything wrong. So, how do you feel like that influenced you and influenced the work that you do now?
I think it just made it very status quo. Like when other people are breaking into it and this feels so specific and it feels so different from what I'm used to. It's very similar to the fact that I launched my business 11 years ago. And from the very first day my doors opened, hypothetically, my business has been online the whole time. My first client was a global client. And so I felt like when everybody went through that shift of, I'm going from brick and mortar to online, and COVID changed a lot of businesses and the landscape. To me, that was just very common. It was, of course, I'm online. Everyone's online. Why wouldn't you be online? It's a
Right.
very matter of fact statement. A lot of the things that entrepreneurs do and the way that we think and how we operate, to me, that was just, and even when I worked in corporate, which was almost a decade of corporate experience, I always worked for startups. So the energy was very similar to that of running my own business because I was the only person in a department, or I was employee number 35. And so it was very boots on the ground, make it work, do what you need to do. So to me, I don't have that experience of working in a company where I'm just a number and no one knows me. It was like I was the face. Everyone knew me and I was always part of a scrappy kind of environment. So a lot of the things that people had to unlearn from corporate and then learn as an entrepreneur, I just sort of grew up being exposed to.
So, one of the things that really attracted me to your work and the way you show up is that you have no problem thinking big. And I feel like I really had to learn that. I still am learning that. And like and I mean, obviously, I mean, in your pedigree, it's like you've worked with all these huge companies and you've served and helped like all these big companies. Like, surely the background helped that a little bit. Do you find so first question is, did the background help with that? And then the second thing is, how do you work with that mindset shift in your clients? Because it's got to be something you run into all the time.
I think it's I think that we're shaped by so many things, and I once heard somebody, I can't remember the context of it, but somebody was talking about how it doesn't really matter how you got here. Like, you could always credit it to your experiences or a person that you were connected to. Like, why are you the way that you are isn't the question to ask, because we're shaped by so many aspects of our lives and it all kind of gets jumbled up. You can't really place it like, well, my fourth grade teacher really made an impact. Like, it doesn't matter where it came from. So that's not really as much what I focus on. But I do think that when you say thinking big, to me, again, that's part of growing up around entrepreneurs. There is no other thought. Like, what do you mean people don't think big? Like, that's just the default. Like, you have to think big to go big. And it's not about, I'm thinking big for the sake of doing it. It's this boundless potential that is available to you. And I feel like if you create small goals, you limit your capacity for more. And we need to open ourselves up to that. And so it's just more, it's become a habit because I started practicing it from a very young age. And my mom was a single mom. And she would always instill in me, you know, anything you want, you can have it. Like, you just have to know what it is that you want so you can get it and you can make the plan and you can, set that in motion. And so that was always my thought was, well, why not think bigger for myself? Why not have more for myself? Because it's other people are having it. So why not me?
I love that answer. We're gonna pull that out and make a clip of that, and we're gonna listen to it every day.
Well, and I think that you being surrounded by that energy,
Mm.
that's what I do is immerse myself in that energy, and then you feel it and you see it in the people around you, and it makes you believe it's possible for you. When you're surrounded by people who think small, you think small. A lot of it is your environment. I think there's a little, nature versus nurture. A lot of our life circumstances are byproduct of nurture. We
Mhm.
choose who we spend our time with, and we are the sum of the five people that are closest to us, or whatever that framing is. So when I'm surrounded by, the conversations I have with friends, I talk to people sometimes that say, I don't talk to my friends about money. I
Mm.
don't talk to my friends about like their dreams and their goals and their ambitions. And I'm like, I don't have friends who don't talk about that. Like, my dinner parties are like, what's your money goal? What's your next step? Like, how are you transforming your life? What are you doing? Where are you traveling to? What have you learned? What books are you reading? We recommend books to each other and we talk about life in such a way. And we're not afraid to have political conversations, even though we know we're on different sides of the coin, because we're open to dialogue and we want to challenge each other and we don't shy away from that. And so to me, it's like, I don't put myself in rooms where everyone is containing the energy to that small space. I put myself in rooms that feel expansive and big. And when you walk out, it's like the doors open up and so does the world. And you start to realize your capacity for everything that could come to you. And that's a choice I make. When I feel stifled by someone, when I feel like I've found myself in a room that makes me feel like I have to contain that or that I can't be fully myself, I don't want to be in that room. And I don't wait for the moment where it feels appropriate to leave. I just walk out. And
Mm.
I think there are a lot of people who they're predisposed to be people pleasers that are just like, well, I don't want to make people uncomfortable at dinner. So I don't want to talk about the thing that I really care about. Or I don't want to leave the room in the middle of this talk where I'm like, I can't afford not to.
Yeah.
That's the energy.
Nice. I love it. I love being so intentional about that. That is I can't champion that enough. Okay, so that's a heck of a way to start off this interview. Super happy. That's amazing. Like I said, all the clips are coming. Okay, so now let's dive into your work and some of your processes a little bit because I know a lot of my audience and a lot of solopreneurs that I know feel this aversion to sales. It's like icky and sleazy and the whole thing. And you talk about this a lot. So, from your own journey, like, what was the most significant mindset shift that allowed you to embrace selling in a way that feels this authentic and joyful and expansive?
I think it was less of a mindset shift and more of a determination to, again, similar through line from the previous conversation. I can't be miserable every day. And in my first sales job ever, I worked at a call center where we were on this telemarketing software with the old school headset on your head, plugged into these like really old computers in a dank basement room. And they were just calling and calling and calling hundreds of people. And I had a script in front of me, and the script was really uncomfortable to say. And I was hoping people wouldn't answer the phone because I didn't want to have to read the script. and like nothing about that job was good, but it paid well. And that's because no one wanted to do it. And I just thought, like, well, I need to be paid well, but I don't want every day of my life to suck and be hard. How do I change this? How do I make it better for me? And it was that moment of giving myself permission. Now, this was back when I was like 20 years old. So, giving myself the permission when my supervisor left the room and said, Justine, you're the most responsible of all the people in this room, but I'm going to put you in charge for the next hour. And she left me to my own devices. And I just thought, I am not going to sit here and read the script if no one's watching over my shoulder, making sure that I do it. And I remember getting on the phone with this older gentleman. He's probably in his 70s. And we had a conversation. And at the end of the conversation, I asked him if he would donate. This was to a school. And I asked him if he would make a donation, and he had never given anything before. And I just asked for $25 and he said no, like right away. And I felt immediate, like, but wait, our conversation went so well. Everything was flowing. Like, what do you mean? And then seconds later, after he paused, he went, I'm going to give twice that much. And that was the light bulb moment that was like, oh, my natural way of talking to people and existing in the world works better than what they've given me. And I can trust myself to do this again with the next person and again with the next person. And suddenly, after a few weeks of doing this, even with the supervisor in the room who had 20 other people to tend after, so she wasn't even concerned with what I was doing, she started to take notice, like, you're getting a ton of donations and they're higher than all the other ones that these people have given before. What's happening? And that's when I realized, oh, I can make commission on top of my base pay and get paid even more. And with all my student loan debt and everything, it was just like, I felt very called to continue doing that, to the point where, I mean, and this is kind of funny and a little bit of an interesting story, but one of the people I called, we had such a good conversation. He actually asked me out and I went on a date with him.
Really? How funny.
And it was a terrible date, to be fair. Like, probably one of the worst ones I went on. But it was so interesting to be like, this, like, the whole world became available to me when I was allowed to be myself and just have conversations. And I loved going to work because I was like, oh my God, I hope the next person picks up because I can't wait to have a conversation with them. And I can't wait to see where it goes and what I learn and what we talk about. And it was fun. And I had no personal connection to their donation amount because it wasn't going in my pocket necessarily. Even though I was making commission, I was still getting paid well. And I was seeing, like, every time the conversation flows, I just have to show up and be me. And it was that combination of authenticity and the freedom and the permission and the proof of it working over and over again that I was like, wait a minute, why do people ever follow a script? Why do they ever try to sell like somebody else? Yes, on paper, it seems like a good idea, the easy way to just do what's proven to work, but it never felt good to me. And slowly but surely over the years, I've been doing this work for 20 years. Every person I meet is like, yes, why can't I be myself? Why do I have to do it this way? And I'm starting to realize that this was just a matter of what was available. And now we've learned there's other ways. And the more people I meet who are like, I don't love this, I'm starting to think, I don't think anyone ever did. I think it was just what we were taught to do and what was made available to us. And now there's other ways. And so we need to really tap into those.
I love that. It's so funny, I got emotional a couple of times while you were talking because I feel like those are lessons that it took me a really long time to learn in business too, of like, that the me who's just me when I show up is more appealing, like, in
Yeah.
sales and in dating and, like, everything, like, you're so much more interesting and compelling when you're just being yourself than when you're trying to perform some idea of what you think the approved structure looks like or perfection looks like, or what a great service provider looks like. Okay, So let's drill into some of your frameworks because your close sales on repeat program emphasizes some frameworks like RAIN, and I want to know talk us through one that like gets you good results, maybe give us an example and like talk us through how it works.
Okay. The core of the program is the build framework. So that is like the essence of how you sell that can be used on a call. It can be used in your marketing and how you're pre-selling your offers. It can be used in how you nurture and retain clients long term. So it's really all encompassing and it's really simple because it's based on 5 core principles. I'm a big fan of an acronym. But basically, I think people get sales wrong in a couple of different ways, and this framework kind of breaks that for them. So, the first is the thought that rapport has to happen over a long period of time. Like you have to either, there's this brainwashy language of you have to have 10 touches or, 12 interactions or 7 touches. There's all sorts of different things that people have come up with over the years for how many touches you need to have with a person before they buy from you. And it's just bullshit. Like I've never had that experience ever. I've met people and I've sold $70,000 deals in a 2-hour conversation. I've sold $5,000 deals in 45 minutes after meeting somebody. And there was no like they didn't even know who I was when we got on the call. It wasn't like research was done or a backstory was formed or anything like that. I've just proven that wrong so many times over my career that the build framework, what we do differently is that we don't spend a lot of time on rapport building for the sake of rapport building, because a lot of people naturally are good at rapport. They know how to have a conversation, especially when you work for yourself. You have somewhat of a gift of gab. You're able to connect to people. You have a skill set people want, all of those things, which make you predisposed to be good at rapport. But they get stuck there and they get what I call friend zoned. So they spend a lot of time talking to people from a friendly place. They become, in so many words, the likable expert instead of the must hire right now in this moment. And so they spend all this time building rapport and then they rush the rest of the sales call. By the time they get to the end, they have to be pushy to get their points across, to move them across the finish line, or they have to extend their sales cycle for longer than it needs to because they spent way too much time there. So, what we do is we kind of set the tone, we pattern interrupt in the beginning, we get that rapport built within the first couple of minutes max. Then we move into understanding what they're needing and identifying what the problems are or the solutions they're looking for, which also builds rapport. And it positions you as an authority because you're able to ask the questions that get to the heart of the matter really quickly. So as you're talking to someone and you're saying, okay, so for instance, I would say to Diane, like, oh, those are interesting little blocks on your back table, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, thank you. I just bought these. I love them. And it starts a little, and that's the end of the rapport building. You're now done with rapport. And people are like, wait, what?
Yeah.
There's nothing else there? Like, what do you mean? Then we move into, so like, tell me a little bit more about what's happening with your sales process right now. Like, what do you want to fix? And then they start telling you all the things, but they don't really know what they need to fix, right? Because you're the expert. I'm the expert. So as they're telling me, well, I just don't know how to find leads. There's not enough people in my industry. Well, first of all, if you believed that there weren't enough people, then why would you own this business? Because that's just silly, right? You just don't like how you have to find them, or you don't like the process you're following to find them. So let's get to the heart of that. So it sounds like you need a way to meet people that feels good to you. It sounds like you need a process for them to follow that feels easy so that they take the next step quickly. And it sounds like, you don't have a lead magnet that you love right now. So we need to fix that. Do those sound accurate? And then the person's always like, oh my God, yes, that is exactly it. Right. Then you start to talk about, okay, so why not just fix those things? Like, why not create a lead magnet today? It's to get to the heart of what's really keeping them stuck or what other alternatives they might have considered. Like maybe they say, well, now that you say that, I did just buy a program that teaches me to create lead magnets. That's really awesome. And I need to get into that. So this is affirming. Then that's great. That's not something that I need to necessarily help you with. But the other things might be, or they might say, I can't just create a lead magnet because I don't even know what format I would pick. I don't know what name I would use. I don't know what nurture sequence would be on the back end. And then we start to get into that and figuring out like, okay, if I gave you those things, would it be easier? What if we could create that in the next 3 days? Would you be like able to actually fill your pipeline with leads, having the lead magnet ready? And so you're really getting to the heart of what it is that they need. And all of those questions you're asking are coming from what you know about your program or your offer and what it is you're able to deliver. So I don't ask questions that I can't answer or help them with. I can give them the idea that they should run ads, but I'm not going to help them create them. So I don't want to spend a lot of time in places where I don't play as the expert. And then at the end of the call is really, okay, so now we've talked about the things you need to fix. Now we've talked about what's really going on behind the scenes. Now we've talked about all the things that have stood in your way and what you've already tried and what's felt hard and what's felt easy and what you're excited to do now. So what do you want? Like, how do we get you to that goal? Is you're not even selling them the solution. You're selling them the shortcut. So anything that I give to people, you could probably find some version of what I'm teaching on YouTube or through ChatGPT or all of these things. But the core of it is I've done it so many times for so many people. It's like the cheat code in a video game. You're going to just skip levels altogether. Like you don't even have to deal with that really crappy level where the boss is coming and you have to beat him up for like 3 times over and over and over and you get like 90% of the way there and then you die and you have to start over again. I'm
Right.
just like press these 3 buttons on the controller and poof, you're good. You're in the next level. So that's what you're really selling is not I can get you there, but I can get you there 10 times faster. And is that important to you or not? And for some people, it's not. And that's why we have different versions of offers and things we downsell to and nurture sequences and all of that. But usually by the time they get on a call with you, there's some urgency internally, and then you spark it with the external, and then it just flows into an immediate yes.
That sounds pretty good. I
Right.
like that. So, let's drill down into one of the steps that you talked about because I think it's important and worth digging into a little bit because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, I think I certainly used to get lost here a lot, is that stage where you're asking questions and you're talking to them because I was very much in my early days wanting to be liked. It's how I was successful, very much people pleaser, recovering people pleaser here. And so that was how I found success. So in business, I totally took all those skills and I'm chummy and I'm friendly and I'm very engaging, but let's be friends. And so I would try and sell that instead of selling the thing I'm good at doing, the thing I want to get paid to do for you. So when we would get to that part of the conversation where we're talking and we're chatting, I would let them talk about whatever they wanted to. And I wouldn't control the conversation and keep it within, look, this is where I'm an expert. This is what I can help you with. How do you kind of keep control of the conversation?
Well, first, I think this is definitely a skill and a practice of mindfulness. You need to have a clear process that you follow for your calls. This is why I operate through frameworks because like, okay, I'm looking at the clock as we're talking, and we've got, we're at the 2 to 3 minutes. So, like, rapport building needs to kind of end soon. I'm already thinking about ways to shift into the next part of the framework, right?
Mhm,
I'm training myself to operate within the framework so that it still feels natural and flows, but I'm not just allowing the conversation to go anywhere and everywhere.
mhm.
So
That's
when people are like, I want to be, everyone's friend, it's like, that's actually not your goal. And if
yeah.
it is your goal, then you will never be a successful salesperson at the level that you desire to be because trying to be someone's friend to me feels more like fitting in than belonging. There's a big difference between those 2 terms, right? And so when we try to be someone's friend, we're trying to fit in and be a chameleon to what they're interested in. When I walk into a room and I don't see people that I want to be around, or I realize the energy is off, or I don't want to be a part of that room, if I wanted to be everyone's friend, I would fit in and make myself look and feel and sound like other people in there. So I would start to talk about things I wasn't interested in and follow threads of conversation that were not exciting for me to have just to try to make other people feel good and comfortable. And I'm very good at that. I could do that all day, but I refuse to do that because it's not fun for me. And so instead, I find the spaces where I belong, but I belong by actually standing out. and finding what is it about me that people love and are called to learn more about and are interested by, so that when we have conversations, a lot of the time when people meet me and a lot of my friendships, something that I get as like what I think is the best points of feedback from my friends are, you bring parts of me out that no one else does. We talk about things that I never get to talk about. Or I have this one friend who I heard this podcast through Simon Sinek, does a podcast called A Bit of Optimism. And on the show, he said, anyone can be your friend in a time of need. So you feel like you're hurting or you're struggling or you need support. But how many of your friends can you call on the best day and you're like, oh my God, I just closed a 6-figure deal. Oh my gosh, I just realized how awesome I am at this thing. And I just want to spend a minute and brag on myself and how great I am today. Or I just won this award and I want to shout it from the rooftops to you. It feels uncomfortable for most people to do that. And that's what a true friend is. It's not the person who's available as a shoulder to cry on. It's the person you can brag to. And all of my friends, I'm that person where they're like, this big thing happened that I can celebrate. And I know if I tell my sister, she'll be secretly jealous. Or if I tell my mom, she'll be angry at me. But when I tell you, I just get to like own it and revel in it and love it and celebrate it. And it's so cool. That's belonging when you get to be yourself loudly and unapologetically and not try to be anybody, but just allow yourself to be. And so you want to find the spaces and the rooms and the clients and the people who allow you to feel celebrated in that way.
Oh, I love that. Even looking for that in clients. That's genius. I love that
Yeah.
so much. I know that episode that you're talking about, by the way. I'll link to it in the description. It's so good. I love his whole podcast, but that episode in
Yeah.
particular was just so sweet. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Let me ask you one more thing about it. This is just kind of a general thing I've noticed about your work. And of course, the idea of curiosity in sales is not like a new concept. So much of what you teach, it's out there already. But I think it's such a huge part of what you do because, like you said, it's really hard to be curious if you've got a script. It's like, I don't care what you're saying because I have my words, I have my marching orders
Yeah.
right here that I have to say. So, would you talk a little bit about the role of curiosity in these conversations and yeah, how does that fit in with being more of who you really are and how does that fit in with this process?
I think there's an important, actually, the mindset shift comes here in distinguishing the fact that when you're on a sales call, a lot of people treat it differently. I use the example of like everyone has a doctor's office voice. Like when you call the doctor's office, you don't speak to them as if you are you, right? Like I
Right.
even do this. I'll get on the phone. Hello, here is my information. Like it's a very weird thing that we all kind of fall victim to. So we are trained to think that sales is a totally siloed conversation. It's a different thing. We shift into sales mode and we put on a face and we show up in a certain way and we have to be above the prospect. And, there's certain things that you're taught about sales that make it feel very different from a normal conversation, right? But I don't look at it like that. So my big mindset shift was like selling is like any other conversation, which is why I sell to people from my hospital bed and I've sold to people at a farmer's market and I sold to people at the bank and the grocery store and like all over the place, random people. I just have conversations with them and I stay open to possibility. So it's again kind of even the through line from the beginning of you're just boundless potential and possibility ahead of you. So you just show up as you. Like, no matter where I am, I'm a sales expert. I can sell better than anyone. I am great at it. I love it. People love and subscribe to the way that I do it. I've been doing it for years. There's no question I can't answer. Like, that's the energy that I show up in everywhere. So when I meet somebody who I find out they have a business and I'm like, how are you selling it? Like, what are you doing? Because I'm genuinely interested in it. And
Yeah.
even when I'm just moving through life, like I did a video a couple of years ago, it's still very memorable, about how I was on a corner of an intersection and there was a gas station on all four sides of the street and they were all packed. And it's like, this debunks the myth of competition
Yeah.
because it's really about Well, if I'm on this side of the road, I'm going to go over here. And if I am loyal to this brand, I'm going to go over there. And if there's different reasons why we choose different people for things and different brands for things. And that's where I think when you just move through life operating under the lens of whatever it is you do, like you talk a lot about AI and design. And so when you see how someone is dressed, you're naturally curious because you're like, but are these their brand colors? Like, what does this signify? And are they choosing more grounded tones? Are they really playing to their strengths and like the undertones of their skin? Like, even though you're not a stylist per se, you're still analyzing choices and you're genuinely curious about the thing that you do. And so it's so easy to create a grocery list and then also be able to budget for your groceries and create meal plans and like do all the things because you operate under that mindset. And so I think when someone's not being curious, they're either in the wrong industry or they're going into a conversation feeling as if they have to treat it differently than how they operate in life, which makes it harder. And once you make the shift in the connection to, I just get to naturally be myself and allow myself to be curious where it sparks my interest, then you will meet the right people and you will ask the right questions and you'll be pulled to learn more because it's just innate in you. It's who you are.
And that sounds like easy selling.
Very easy.
Yeah.
Selling is so easy when you can just be yourself, but the frameworks and the skills that you build to learn how to it's almost like productizing something. You have like your sales essence and that exists, but you still have to bottle it. It can't just float around everywhere. It has to feel specific and contained in some ways so that you have the ability to see the bottle and pour it out as you need it. Otherwise, if it's always available to you, you stop thinking about it and being mindful of it, learning the skills and how to apply them and coming up with the processes and the frameworks to guide you through the steps. That makes you better at it. But we all have the essence. We just have to figure out how to bottle it and eventually how to brand it and how to use it appropriately in the right doses because we've all been in the room with the person who's wearing way too much cologne or
Right.
when you're kind of like gagging like it's too much, right? And that then there's people who don't wear enough and you're like, well, maybe you need to add a little bit more to your palette. And then there's those people who just like smells good all the time. Like I love being around them and I want to know what that signature scent is. It's like our natural pheromones are our sales personalities. And then we have these little elements that we just have to be mindful of to make sure it's not too much or too little.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great metaphor for sales. How smelly are you? That's that's fantastic. And I totally see that too, and I've seen that in your work that I think there is a natural easiness to sales, but there's definitely like the frameworks and the strategies and the structure help you find the ease of it, especially if it doesn't come natural to you, which I think for most of us it doesn't. And so I think there's a yeah, I definitely see how the structure and the strategy help the frameworks help you find the ease and help you get in touch with the part of it that's really innate to you and comfy and easy and yeah.
Well, structure creates freedom. I
Oh,
subscribe to that
yeah.
mentality. And so when I think about all the areas of my life where my mind, because I'm ADHD and I often love to operate without a plan, I'm very spontaneous and I'll just jump on things and do things and it's all very fun. But ultimately, to live your best life, you have to have that structure. You have to have some level of discipline because that allows you to play in the spaces that you leave open. Whereas if everything's open, it can quickly become very chaotic and you're just not sure how much or what to do when. And that structure of like, now is my sales time. And this is the container in which I build rapport. And this is the container in which I identify issues and, help them get to the root of it. It gives you the freedom. I don't have to ask any one question. I don't have to be any one person in this moment. I get to be me and I get to ask whatever questions, but within a guide so that I have the freedom to be myself. But I also know that I can't just play in this space forever and ever, that there is ultimately a time limit to sales calls and there is, a goal that someone has in mind. And if we showed up to our whole lives just going, I'm just going to show up to my life today and see what happens, what would get done? We would probably forget to brush our teeth and take showers, and we wouldn't spend time with the people that mattered most to us because we would get caught up in other things. And so, by having structure to our weeks and our days and each moment and how we move throughout our lives, we create all this freedom to have these incredible experiences. It's why we book travel 6 months in advance, because that structure actually creates a lot of freedom versus I've had those moments where I've just hopped on a plane to Paris overnight and I get there and I'm like, I don't have a place to stay. There's no vacancy. What do I do? And then you start to get stressed out and you don't enjoy it as much as you thought. In theory, it all sounds good to just flow through life in a very casual way. But when you're actually there, it's like you need to have a plan. That plan gives you that freedom.
Well said. Okay, last question, really quick. If I don't ask this, my audience will be mad. This is the big one.
Yeah.
Price objections. Everybody wants to raise their prices, charge more, charge what they want. What do you say when someone says to you, "Oh my God, wow, that's way too much"?
Yeah. I think what's most important about pricing is you have to feel that it's a steal and they also do.
Mhm.
And that's a balance, right? And so when I show up, I always want every aspect of my offer to feel worthy of what they're paying in full. So if they get, in my program, there's a portal of resources. Those are worth what you pay for the program, more so. Then there's also calls. Those are worth what you pay for the program. Then there's also the results people get. And I've seen happen over and over again in the tens of thousands of dollars people are making like week 1, week 2, week 3. I'm like, okay, those are hard to quantify. And it depends on the person and where they're at and how much opportunity is available. Some people join my program and they have a line of sales calls ready to go. And I'm like, you're closing all of them. Let's go. And before their close rate was 10%, now it's 90%. That's a big win. Then I've got people who are like, I don't have anything on the calendar. And it takes maybe a few days or a few weeks to fill their pipeline with leads and start getting the calls flowing in. So it's not one size fits all in that way. So it's hard to consider, like, there's so many factors of why someone would say that's too much. But it all really boils down to the one concept of where are they seeing the value and how do we redirect their attention to what they want and how they're valuing that. Because some people, let's say that you're a personal trainer and you're meeting with somebody and they're like, I want to lose 50 pounds. That's a significant amount of weight, right? And so somebody says, you say, I have a program for $5,000 that's going to help you lose 50 pounds. And that person says, whoa, that's way too much. Your mind can go to a couple different places. You can go, oh no, they're not going to buy. I have to discount it immediately. Okay. You could do that. And maybe they'll say yes, but probably they'll still say no. And you'll just end up gouging your prices for no reason. Right. The second thing you can do is you can stick with your price and you can bully them. Like that's what a lot of salespeople do, is they'll be like, "Oh, really? I thought this was a significant issue that you wanted to solve. I guess you don't value your weight loss as much as I value it." And then they make you feel like a jerk and you feel bad and they end up buying, but they regret it and they don't want to work with you because that's a terrible thing to do. Right.
Right.
And then there's somewhere in the middle, which is where I live, which is like, okay, so if you think it's too much, like tell me a little bit more about your goals. Like, what are you really wanting to achieve here? Is it important to you to achieve 50 pounds weight loss in the next year? Or is it maybe not? Because the reason why I charge this is because I guarantee results in this time frame. And so if that's what they're looking for and they're like, no, it's super important, then that's okay. Then let's stick with that and go down that line of value for them. I love your program. Do you want to have a split pay option or a payment plan option? Do you want to have something that's DIY for people who are losing their first 10 pounds that you can downsell them to, that allows them to be exposed to your methods and your practices and get them some results and get you paid without so much physical effort on your part to help them? Or is there someone you could refer them to who maybe deals with people that have different issues and maybe you're not the right one, but you get a referral fee from that? So there's so many ways you could take it. There's so many questions you could ask. But I think at the core of it, what we want to focus on is you going into those calls knowing if someone's booked a sales call with you, they want what you sell. So it's really a matter of figuring out how do we get it in their hands as quickly and easily as possible so they can start getting those results as quickly and easily as possible. In fact, the opposite happened with you. You were sort of like, I'm really mad at you right now because I have to buy it because it's such a steal. Like that. And that's a response that I love to get because it's how I've structured my program. I want it to be a no brainer. So when someone comes to me and says that, I'm like, if they say, you should be charging half the price, I'm like, they've missed something.
Yeah.
There's a mismatch here. We need to solve for that. And so we never want to follow them down the rabbit hole on price. We want to escalate them, raise them up to our level of status and our standards to be like, where is the value that you're seeing? How do we chase that value, get clear on that value together versus just talking about the monetary investment? Because that's figure outable, but the value piece is something that you both have to be really clear on for it to be like, okay, let's figure out how to make this work for you. But ultimately, you go into the conversation with the belief like, of course they want to buy this. Of course they want to lose 50 pounds. But now I have to figure out, do they value my method of doing it in the time frame I'm promising for the price point I've set? Or are they looking for something else? Or do they just not understand what I've created here? And then it's just about aligning on clarity.
Wonderful. Justine, thank you so much. I know we're at time. So thank you. This was amazing. Really quick, tell people how they can find you.
Yeah, so Sell with Justine is my handle everywhere. LinkedIn, Instagram. You can go to sellwithjustine.com to get to my website, and you can find me on my own podcast at Why You Hate Sales.
Awesome. And your program, Close Sales on Repeat, I will link to it below. It is super worth the money. It's an amazing deal. And thank you. Thank you so much, Justine, for doing this with me today. This was great.
Thank you so much. It was so fun.